Yes, I wanted to ask about like teaching insecurities because to an extent they have allayed over, the time I've been teaching, but they're still pretty active. And like something that I'm dealing with currently, for example, is if I have, say, a teacher in my class that's been teaching longer than me, or a student that I think they're studying longer, and I'm just so embarrassed, like they're gonna judge everything I'm saying, and they, with everything I say, they'll be like, "Oh, why did she say that? Oh, shouldn't I normally say that?"
Yes. Teaching insecurities are normal. I know that when I first started teaching, and I'm talking about like the first 5 years, I would watch myself after every class wanting to make sure it was okay. I mean, I was pretty insecure, but it was that, as teachers, whatever we have going on is going to play out in our teaching. And so what I would always observe was there's always going to be that student that doesn't like me, that student that is going to be my challenge in some way, whether it's like physically, I don't know how to language, you're so different from the rest of the class. There's going to be that student that knows more than me and they must hate me. And then they must be judging. And it was funny when you were saying this because I thought, right, well, how much is it just our own insecurities of we're judging ourselves? Like, I mean, how many times I'll be teaching a really focused class and I'll think they hate me, but it's more that I just am getting them so focused that that's the facial expression. And it's always funny where sometimes you'll get feedback from students afterwards that they'll say, "Oh, that was fantastic." And it was that person, right? And it was the person that you thought hated you.
Totally.
With that said, I remember my teacher saying this, Anna Forrest, and it didn't register much until honestly probably about this year, where she said, "Don't waste time on your students that just aren't with you." Because I used to always kind of go into my weakest link because I can, the way I'm feeling a classroom is like, okay, well, I got to somehow get this person, I need to win them over. So instead of going with all the other students that are already like with me and won over, and let's just go on a journey, and maybe that other person will get caught up in it, or maybe they won't, I would try to convince them. And it was that part of me that was like, I'm not good enough. I need everybody to like me.
I do that. Same thing.
Right? Yeah. I'm a people pleaser. And the more sensitive you are, the more it's like taking things to heart. Teaching yin and being a craniosacral therapist and teaching yin was really helpful, where it's like, I'm going to let you all be as you are. I'm only like the people who are ready for something, I'm going to offer stuff. It's not about being detached, but it's about not giving your power away. So as a teacher, it's like being in your power. And I think that's the hardest thing in the beginning when we start teaching is we want to please everyone. I remember when I was teaching hot power yoga and then I started to understand and explore other things. Suddenly my students were like, whoa, you're changing your style. And I remember thinking, okay, so I can teach something that works, makes me a lot of money, but in my heart doesn't feel authentic anymore. In the beginning it did. It didn't feel right anymore. And it became that choice of who am I teaching? What am I teaching for? What is this? So I think what I do now is I have my insecurities still come up and I recognize them as these are voices that are saying things that aren't true. What has been helpful is I will have master teachers come to my class. And I remember one day, what helped me was a master teacher came to my class, but he came to my intro class. So it was actually perfect.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't dazzle him with all my little things, right? I had to teach at an intro level. He said it was one of the best classes because he reminded me that the tool is we're here to hold space. Think about when you go into a class. You're not wowed. I mean, it is so fun when someone can teach us something new. But when can someone hold a really clean, stable space? That's really helpful. Like when I get on the mat right now, it's like I just want a place where I can drop in and do my work. So if you're focusing on that, then teach to the whole level. And I think we also get challenged when we have an open level class because you're always going to have beginners to advanced. And remember that, like, let's just pretend, let's take 5 years from now, and you're just dropping into a class because you just want to practice. And you just happen to go to one of your students' classes, and you really just want to practice. Actually, you're having a bad day. You really are feeling emotional and insecure, but you just want to get on and practice. You actually don't even want people to acknowledge you. You actually don't want your student to feel all shy and nervous. You just want your student to do their thing teaching. You know that if, when they're in their light, everything's okay. You know, so it's like that thing of like, remember that teachers are humans too, that just need to get on the mat and practice. I think that's important. Bless you.
Thank you.
And it's also remembering that we all have a judge, but who wants to live according to the judge? Bless you.
Thank you.
Do you need more Kleenex? No. You don't want to have that judge run you. You know, and it's also that thing of like, when I'm teaching now, it's like I can feel if someone's judging me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let that, I don't want to let that get me in, get to me.
And I'm so clear that when that judge is ruling for me, I'm not I'm much more authentic and inspiring when that judge isn't there. So the way of, it's a detriment to me fulfilling my purpose of being of service. Like, I know that because it disconnects me.
Right. And how do we, it's kind of like that question of like, how do we come into center? How do we become the teacher when we're teaching? I was saying yesterday I had a challenging teaching day, which is, I have been teaching a lot of group classes, for a lot of other people, like I'm subbing their classes. And it's always challenging when you walk into someone else's room because it's not your people, you know? So in a way you do feel like you have to win them over, but you also can't be inauthentic to your teaching style. So I closed my eyes, I centered myself like I always do. I kind of tuned in to what people need. But I just made a decision, like for me, like I'm going to teach from my heart and I'm going to have some fun. You know, like that's what's important. And just from that prayer, like teaching from my heart, you know, making sure I'm in service, but I'm going to teach from my heart and I'm going to have some fun, revolutionize the class. And I think that's where it is like, it's let's take it off from being a teacher. As a human being, not everyone's going to like us, but let's go have fun anyway, right?
Yeah.
And it's not about having fun to the detriment of others, but it's not giving our powers away to that insecurity. Yeah. Your students are going to be your best teachers. So I guess it goes back to even earlier when we were making that adjustment in the very beginning and you're like, right, I wasn't in line. Check when you're having certain thought patterns, are you in line with yourself? Does that make sense? So when your structure's off, it's going to screw up your thoughts. Screwed up thoughts will affect your structure as well. Totally. So that's why when you get in, it's like just stabilize yourself, be your best friend, have some fun, and also just know like you will have students leave. You will have students not like you. You'll have students complain. Believe in yourself. That's the most important thing. And you know, and it's good to have friction sometimes when we're teaching, where we get to check ourselves. Was I out of line? Am I appropriate with my boundaries? Am I overly insecure? You know, did my sequencing suck? You know, was I a space cadet while teaching? You know, it is good to review ourselves, but to do it in a kind way where, you know, you're not beating yourself up. And I know you're really good at beating yourself up. Yeah. So, you know, it's kind of like, just look at it like I did my best. You know, it's like the 4 agreements, you know, try your best, be impeccable with your word. I forgot the other 2, but, yeah. So I think insecurities are normal, but there's always something that you can offer someone. And I know now as a teacher, like just recently, because I've been doing a lot of private work with someone with a reformer machine and Pilates and gyrotonics and stuff, just because it's fun to play. And my teacher was leaving for a while. And I was like, I was so in love with how she taught me because no one else teaches like her. And she said, you know, this other teacher is totally different. but she's going to offer you something different. And I know that I grow when someone offers me something different. So when I'm teaching, I know that as a rule, I'm offering something different.